wanted to talk to y'all today about one of my art prints called Lucky Bamboo. This print means a lot to me. It is about my grandmother passing away in early 2025. She always loved houseplants and had a ton whenever we would go over. I remember whenever we would go up to visit her, we'd stop at a garden store on the way to get her something as a present. And for as long as I can remember when visiting her, she always had these plant pots. And so I decided to create some risograph prints of these pig plant pots with Lucky Bamboo in them. They always came in a pair of two. I decided to pick one to showcase in this print. I was wanting to create a second print at one point of the second in the pair with a different plant in it to represent my grandpa who passed away in 2020. I wanted to create something to try and help me process the grief of her passing. We had never been super close, but there's always something about a relative passing, even if you weren't very close to them. It's always a little bit odd because they're not a part of your daily life necessarily. So in your day-to-day life, you don't miss them, if that's the right way to say it. Hopefully you know what I'm saying. But there isn't like daily reminders of like, oh yeah, like I'm missing them texting me, or I'm missing seeing them, because we didn't text every day and I didn't see her that often. But there's still like the grief there because it's someone that you loved that is no longer in this world, even if you didn't get to see them that often. And so then I was thinking about physical objects and how physical objects are reminders of people, because I do associate a lot of things with her. I can remember very clearly what her apartment looked like and the different artwork that she had on the walls. And I think Chinese tea sets are gonna remind me of her a lot for a very long time, as well as the little red trays that you often would find in Chinese bakeries, but that she just had in her home to set snacks on for us when we came over. But the association with people and physical objects can be very strong, and also the wanting of a physical object to remember her by, again, because I didn't have reminders of her in my daily life generally previously, and so wanting something to remember her by going forwards. I think there's also something to be said about keeping sentimental objects around and not letting them go because of the memories they have attached to them, but I'm not 100% sure exactly how that ties into this work. I feel like I'm rambling a bit, which I feel like is valid, especially for this topic. Let me talk to you a little bit about how I made this art print. So this is designed to be a risograph print. Risograph is a really cool printing technique if you don't know what it is. It is essentially screen printing, but in a printer, a digital printer. So how it works, to my understanding, is it prints in layers like you would for screen printing, but it will take a digital image, it will burn holes or create holes on the rice paper that is inside the printing machine, and then use that as kind of a stencil to push ink through. And this is all happening inside the printer or in the machine. And so that's how you would get one layer. To get a second layer, you put that same piece of paper back in through. The process happens again, but with a different color of ink. And so it really is just screen printing. If you know how screen printing works, you have a screen, you can put stencils on top of it or block out some of the screen, but you're pushing ink through that screen to get that one color on your paper. And so the way that you have to set up a file for risograph printing is you have to do it in layers by color. And prior to creating this print, as well as my Roots in the Valley print, I hadn't really experimented with layering colors quite as much, but the book by Natalie Anderson, who does a lot of risograph printing, really inspired me to try out layering colors, because depending on what colors you use, it can really just be like CMYK printing. and you can layer a bunch of different colors on each other and get those other hues that you want. And previously I'd really just tried like 100% opacity and no real layering on top. But with this, it meant that I gave myself permission to kind of experiment and try out and see what colors I could make with a more limited color palette, which was really fun to play around with. So I'll show you each of those layers and then what they kind of look like all together. So starting out with the lightest layers first, because another thing with risograph printing is there's the possibility for roller marks from the rollers that put the ink on the paper. And if you start out with your lighter colors first, you're less likely to have as noticeable roller marks. So starting out with yellow, and then moving to red, and then blue, and finally a couple different things of black. And then here are them layered on top of each other in succession. I think that process is really cool to kind of see how the different colors come into existence, and it's really interesting to have to think like that, which is really exciting for my brain because I think that I tend to be much better about thinking in layers in a printmaking sense than thinking in more of a digital illustration or painting sense, where you're kind of just layering whatever colors on top of each other and blending them together and things like that. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I post videos every Monday about art and having an art shop business. I will see you in the next one. Bye!